G'day, listeners. Welcome back, Barkarati, the sailing podcast. Another week done, another week of interesting stuff to talk about. Can't wait to get into it. Are we going to be able to get into it? Joining me, first up, is my good mate, Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, Exalted One.
Are you there, BP?
Yes, Yes, I'm here. It's still Salamat Pagi. I'm in the lovely island of Langkawi. Just finished up with the Rajamuda Regatta. Always a fun week. Dealing with the usual tech troubles, but we'll see how we go.
Next week we're all in Oz, mate. It's just going to be crazy. It's going to be so easy to do.
I know.
Yeah. Also joining us is a special man.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bias, where are you?
Well, we're making a bit of a habit of this, and to be sitting in your hotel room at 7 a.m. in Lisbon. Yes. Bom dia, listeners.
Bom dia.
So we've moved from the land of Heineken to the land of Superboc.
Yep.
And that is the land of Portugal.
Yep. What?
After a big week at Mets, and I must say a few Heinekens got consumed. A successful week at Mets, and successful for you, Jordan, because... we were at the Heineken drinks on the Wednesday night, which is quite famous at Mets. And as I was leaving, I was getting a bit of a Wolverine cheer.
Whoever told you this, BP? He's walking through Mets and someone's yelling out, "Go the Wolverine!"
Well, I got to say, it seems to be gaining traction, because I was down at the club the other day, and a certain Richie Allenson came up to me and went, "Greetings, Exalted One."
Oh, it's a dream come true.
Gaining traction.
It's a dream come true. Oh, dear, oh dear.
It is.
Cool. All right, boys. Well, we've got a lot to get through this week. We've got an awful lot to get through, and there's so much to talk about. But we've always wanted to talk to this bloke. We've got Matt Allen joining us now. Matt Allen is obviously, he's on every committee. He was the former Commodore of the CYC. He was the vice chair, or is the vice chair of the Oceanic Offshore Committee. He's on the Olympic Committee for Australia. He's also won the Australian Offshore Championships, won the Hobart, won everything. And he's done the whole thing where he went from being the boat captain on a boat, went off and made his money and to come back as the owner. So he's lived the full life cycle of a sailor. So it's a very interesting guy to have on. Matt Allen, welcome to Barkarati, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jordan. And hi to the Bicey and BP. Good to be talking to you all. And congratulations on your award at Mets, by the way. That was really great to see.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we'll chat about that a bit later, but normally we have a run sheet which is about a page long, Matt, but putting your bloody CV on, you've got a couple of pages here.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I've been sailing forever, which is not a bad thing. But we just talk about sailing all the time, especially as we're about to get into December, and we all know what December means in Sydney. You know, it's all about 1 o'clock on Boxing Day and the great race to Hobart.
Oh, there you go, leading the segue. Just before we do go down that path, I just noticed something, boys. So Matt's got an AM. And our good mate Alistair Murray, and your good mate Alistair Murray's got an AM, and since he got it, we've called him AM for a lot of fun. But I've just realised we can call you MAAM.
Yeah, well, yeah, like ma'am. I think that means that Alistair and I are better before lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not very good at PM, but we're all right during AM.
Oh dear, I love it. I love
very
it.
Cool.
All right,
yes,
so
very good.
Let's roll quickly. So you bought the Hobart up, so let's just go down that path. 30th time for you to go south is from memory?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did my first race in 1980 on the mighty Bacardi, and had a few years off when I was living in Japan. But yeah, number 30 for me, and obviously 75th, Hobart overall. So that'll be exciting and a great fleet.
Yeah, 75th. It is going to be quite a huge fleet. I think we're all a bit fired up. Barkarati might hijack a boat and just go and sit on the start line and talk a bit of crap, I think, at the moment. We're fired up for this one.
Yeah, I think, it's amazing. I've been actually doing a couple of interviews in the last few days, and it's, normally December is when you start focusing on it all, but it's amazing how much interest there is for this year's race, and and it's sort of general sporting media. It's just quite incredible, and with a maybe not a record fleet, but probably the biggest fleet we've seen for a long, long time. At I think it's 170 boats at the moment. It'll probably end up to be 165 boats or so. Hitting the start line on Boxing Day, it's certainly going to be a main attraction for the sport, and obviously the huge amount of publicity the race gets. It's just great for the sport to get it on the front page of the newspapers, and because our sport doesn't often get to the front page.
And I guess, let's face it as well, probably the highest calibre of fleet that we've seen for a long time as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the fleet's concentrated at a couple of different areas, but there's boats throughout all the size range. But the probably the best selection of TP52s, or boats that were sort of originally TP52s, that you'd find in any ocean race. I think there's 11 of them in the entries, maybe 12. So that's a huge race within the race, and obviously virtually every 100-footer in the world lining up on the start line, probably only missing 100-footer in the world. And, that's obviously gives the yachties and the general media a huge amount of interest in the race, and propels, the race into, into the sailing media and, as I said before, into the mainstream, which is great.
So your history in the Hobart's pretty good. Obviously, you were part of the Victorian Mafia there for a while, and you jumped on board and you had a win in '83. I think that was on Challenge with Lou Abrams, if I'm going off memory correctly. And then you won it yourself in 2017 in your boat, had a near win last year. So obviously this will be your 30th run down. What's the attraction for you of the Hobart, and how hard is it to win?
Yeah, it's a really good question, isn't it? I was actually, when we were at the World Sailing Conference the other day, I was having a chat with Stan Honey, and, obviously, we all know Stan very well, and especially you, Bicey. You've done a bit of sailing with Stan over the years. And he was saying, the Hobart is his favourite race. I think it's just because it's such a tactical race. It's a incredibly hard race to win, and I think, when you're finishing in a river, and whether it be Storm Bay or the river, the number of times you just get parked up, or that parks up the people behind you or in front of you, that just creates a huge amount of interest in the race. But every year is so different, and I think it's such a big challenge to know how hard to push the boat and how hard you can push, when you need to back off. I remember one year, Bicey, I think you were in ABN AMRO, was it 2006? And there was about, 4 or 5 knots of current, and you guys stuck it into the current that night, and our Volvo 70 was falling apart we're breaking all the halyards and whatever, because we'd moved on to carbon fibre sails. So the halyards couldn't handle it, and you guys were just gone. You were just like leading the fleet and so far in front of everybody else that, and then until you blew the rig out.
Yeah, I think whilst the carbon sails actually added to just putting so much stress on everything else, we were loaded to the brim. 17 people, I think we had. So we were at no stacking though at that point. So you're probably not achieving the same riding moments, but we didn't take our foot off one little bit. It was almost a bit of a swan song, I think, for Moose to just top off his win that he did have, and with everyone else on board as well. But then, popped the poor little stick out, which wasn't too much fun.
No, I don't know how far in front you were, versus where we were, but you were a long way ahead until you popped the rig out, and we almost ended up winning the race. We ended up getting, I don't know, I think 4th in that race. after all that. I mean, if you guys had kept the rig in, you would have won the race by such a big distance. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
It would have been anyone second.
Well, so let's throw onto that boat then. So you had the Volvo 70 there, which in sort of a roundabout way ended up in your boat, I guess, if we all remember back to that sort of Volvo 70 campaign, the Australian campaign, the first sort of real Australian campaign for the Volvo, and you ended up with this Volvo 70. Do you have a love for the Volvo Ocean Race at all, or is that it was just sort of you were talked into it?
Oh, look, I think the Volvo Ocean Race and the Ocean Race now, I think it's just the most incredible event. And I guess we were really frustrated over so many years and continue to be so that there's so many Australians in the race, but it's such a pity that it's so difficult to get a syndicate up and running from based in Australia, sponsored by Australians and Australian companies, and it's just a struggle. And that challenge that we did with Grant Warrington back in 05, 06, it was a struggle most of the way. And we struggled for funding, but I mean, what a great thing to be part of. And that there was just so much happening with those first generation Volvo 70s. And the sort of the intrigue during the race, the intrigue going into the race with, the ABN boats being so different from the FAR boats and our boat being different to everything else. It was just it was an amazing experience. And then, obviously all the experiences during the race, which I remember watching the video a few months ago of that race, and I mean, just what people went through. And, obviously, through the tragedy, losing a boat, losing hands as well. It was just an incredible experience to be part of. It's just a pity we can't get the whole thing up and running again out of Australia, given that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's more Australians sailing in the race than any other nationality these days. But you guys would know that better than me.
Yeah, that was certainly the case during last race, and like you say, Matt, it is a pity, but we've got to keep pushing hard, and hopefully it does come into fruition at some point in time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's certainly the right people in there, we're certainly fairly heavily involved in trying to help boats get across the line. So, if somebody does have the money, then we could put a boat on the water, a brand new super duper design on the water, and put the best crew on it within the time it takes to build a boat. Everything's ready to go. There's no planning, and we're helping other teams with that at the moment. So maybe somebody will listen in and go, oh, hang on, here we go. Here's the chance. We're close.
Yeah, look, it'd be just terrific to see, and can't wait to see the next generation of boats out sailing, and it's going to be really exciting. And it's a great thing about our sport, isn't it, that there's so many really, really exciting boats. Now you look at the new America's Cup boats. Obviously, the Sail GP boats are just getting better and better with the changes they're making, and I also think, and I haven't seen a lot of publicity about it, but the decision that we made in Bermuda recently was, to move into the foiling windsurfer. I think is also going to really change that end of the sport as well, which is really, really exciting, I think, for people who are keen on windsurfing and creating a better spectacle in the Olympic Games with the foiling, with the iFoil.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt, obviously being very active for many years, the last 10 years, the evolution of yachting has just gone through the roof compared to, say, 20 years before that. And one question we've had on this show before is what's going to happen in the next 10 years? It's almost hard to imagine.
Well, I guess foiling's really going to keep changing the sport, at an incredible pace, and that's just going to be, I think, huge for the sport, and really, really, exciting when we're seeing, whether it be the NACRA, whether we, doesn't matter which area of the sport we're looking at, foiling's going to just really change the sport, grow the sport. It's probably going to grow some of the development of the sport, which I think has to be carefully managed.
Mm. Yeah, it is quite interesting because we were lucky enough to have a bit of, well, predominantly Bossy, but we were lucky enough to have a fair bit to develop the latest, most extreme boat we've ever seen with the Super 60 project. And, to be honest, we would sit down and have a beer and just say, what about if we tried this, and then throw it in the model? And it was just crazy, some of the things that came out. Remember when we were just talking about canting rigs and what we worked out from canting the rigs. So we worked out, am I allowed to say this? Yeah. We worked out if we canted the rig to windward 5 degrees, we took 1.5 tonne of weight out of the boat because we created a low pressure, high pressure effect, and actually made the boats foil quicker and easier just by canting the rig slightly. Stuff that you don't even think of. So just little effects create a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's just incredible, isn't it? All those changes. It's just going to, what's happening in other areas of the sport is just going to end up becoming, more mainstream over time. But I also love the simplicity in a way of the TP52s. They're light, they're fun to sail. They're sort of complicated boats, but there's nothing as complicated. Obviously you've got one keel, one rudder, and the keel doesn't move. Well, It's not meant to anyway. So, that's the joy of sailing a boat. I think that's really at the state of the art of the sport, but is also essentially not a complicated boat.
I was just going to say, we're probably going to come back to it later on, but one thing we're really concerned about is making sure that we can just get people coming into our sport, into the bottom. So whilst it's all great to talk about the high-tech stuff, the simple stuff, and just the pure joy of just going for a sail.
Just going yachting with your mates.
Yeah.
There's a lot in that, for sure.
There's so much in that. Everything else is irrelevant. Just going out and having a laugh with your mates. It's genuinely what should be the best. And speaking of having a laugh with your mates, you did a bit of Transpac action. Surely you prefer doing that than the Hobart.
Well, it was a bit cheaper because I was sailing with
someone else's.
With Sid Fisher on Ragamuffin and with Dave Witt. So it's probably the cheapest 6 days of yachting I've ever done in my life, apart from the days when I used to be boat captain for Louis. But I was really lucky to be invited to join those guys because I think they felt that they needed somebody that had a bit of, canting keel background from the Volvo 70 days. And it was just a great pleasure to sail, do the Transpac race, which is obviously a terrific, race to do. But actually, I've only ever done 2 races with Sid Fisher, and there've been 2 Transpacs. And I've known Sid for years and years and years, ever since the sort of 80s when we used to sail against him. And just amazing to sail with a guy with that history. And I don't think there'll be anyone, certainly from an Australian perspective, to match Sid's record. I mean, all the Hobart races and the successes of the Admiral's Cups and everything else he's done, and just throw 5 America's Cups in as well for good measure. It's just incredible record.
And I guess, and for Sid also, he was a huge advocate for bringing the youth through as well. If there were some hot guys in the 470 or something, their next step was onto Sid's boat and steering Sid's boat. So, what a legend in the sport.
I remember I did his after his 40th Hobart. I did a speech for him when he received his plaque for his 40th Hobart, and I named some of the people that he'd launched their sailing careers, but the list just goes on and on and on. And Ian Murray and Jimmy Spittle. I mean, the list is obviously a lot longer than that, but I mean the names just are part and parcel of the fabric of our sport. And who knows what would have happened to our sport without Sid, and bringing all the younger kids through. I mean, the list is just enormous, and his influence on the sport is enormous.
I'm just worried that BP's been abducted.
Yeah.
Are you there, BP?
I'm battling a little bit. Technically, it's coming in and out. So it's. But I'm just sitting here listening. It's all good.
You got a question, mate? I'll just make sure you come in when you want, buddy. I was just worried for you there, mate.
No, it's all good. I'm just actually looking forward to get into the Olympic discussion, so I'll stand by for that.
Okay, copy. Now, obviously the whole Blue Water program, you actually do campaign your boat quite heavily up and down the coast. Well, you've got 2 boats, of course, but predominantly the 52, it's my understanding. And so, all the races which are underway now, so Newcastle race, the Flinders race, you go up to Airlie, you do Hamo, and of course the Brisbane to Gladstone.
Plus, let's not forget the Blue Water Classic, the Adelaide to Port Lincoln yacht
Adelaide
race.
to Port Lincoln yacht race, yeah, where you have to speak slow for the locals. The Bicey started in Lincoln, went to Adelaide, and then he's never sat down ever since, has he? He's just travel. Have you got a favourite out of those at all? Or you just love sailing?
Yeah, look, all the races we do, I mean, we really enjoy. But I don't think you can get past the Hobart race. I think that's the thing that we sort of put everything around. The whole focus. If every decision we make is about doing the best thing for the Sydney to Hobart. But I'd have to, given I'm talking to a lot of Adelaide-based, originally born people, I'd have to say probably that Port Lincoln regatta I did, earlier this year was just. I mean, we just had so much fun down there. It was really, really good. It was like a walk back in time in a way, in a really positive way. It was like really friendly regatta. Everyone had a lot of fun, a lot of jokes,
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful flat water sailing, which is just it's just lovely going to a venue where you get flat water, because often in Sydney, as soon as you go out through the heads and into the washing machine, as I call it, it's just great to go flat water sailing and plenty of shifts down there too. I don't know, the plenty of 30 to 45 degree shifts. So, you need to be on the right side of some of those. I don't know how you blokes do it down there.
Maybe we could sell them our tagline for Barkarati: 100% seriousness, 23% of the time.
Well, that
it's a good one. I'll see you there next year, Matt. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Bicey. We're gonna go straight from Hobart, take the boat to Adelaide, give her a rest in Adelaide, and we've got a few Adelaide boys sailing with us. Dav, young Dav, who's been with us for quite a few years now.
Yep.
And Pato.
Yeah.
Pato sailing with us. So we've got a nice selection. We've got a few Melburnians, a couple of people from north of the border as well, a couple of Queenslanders. And we're a bit of a cross-section of people from all over the place, which is good.
That's very cool. There is a magic hidden away sailing spot you all go past when you head to Lincoln. I just want to get on the record, the greatest sailing spot in the world is Port Vincent.
Oh, I'm hearing that.
There's nothing better than sailing at Port Vincent. You can never convince me of any other place in the world. And if you ever get the chance, Matt, you probably don't want to take a TP52 in there. You might run aground, but there's a little hidden spot in there of just pure magic. The question I want to get to...
Best places to catch...
Go back.
Sorry, guys. Best places to catch the old blue crabs over there too, mate. That's what you got to do in Port Vincent.
Yep. It's like the perfect...
I don't mind the tuna. I don't mind the tuna down at Port Lincoln either. Just unbelievable. I just love tuna. After living in Japan for so many years, the tuna's amazing.
It certainly is.
I was going to say that, Matt, when you did the Port Lincoln, I'm assuming you got yourself a seafood tray in one of the prizes because you won a few of the races. So,
I think we missed out on the crayfish, but they kept on giving us big slices of the tuna, so I was very happy. Very well looked after.
Very good.
It wasn't a setup at all.
Very good.
Unbelievably, Kempy won the seafood tray before seafood night at his place.
Yeah, I don't think that was rigged though, was it?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Now the question I want to go down, the pathway I want to go down. So you've had, if we look at the 52s, because you've had a few 52s. Your current one's a boat and design. You've got the Car Geek 60. You're an owner now. So what's the process for you like you want to win races, obviously, you're into it. So when you look at, say you're looking for a new boat, what sort of process do you go through to try and decide which boat, which design, where to build it, like that whole thought process from an owner?
Yeah, no, I think it's probably the hardest thing as a boat owner is actually to work out, what do you want to build or what do you want to buy? And I guess we just took the view with the TPs that we're just going to look at what was being successful in the Super Series. And we know the Super Series and the people who sail in the Super Series, you get the design evolution takes you, a long way down the path. And it gives you a boat that is in a windward leeward fashion, just a really highly tuned, highly evolved boat, which I think is one of the reasons why the TP52s are pretty dominant, because of the design evolution. But I think also then you've got to overlay the fact that, you're not always going upwind or downwind. You've actually got to go reaching, and I think that's part of the puzzle. Not so much in the hull form, but obviously designing the sail plan and where how your halyards and locks and things like that are going to work. So I think the TP52s is really, for me, the only place to go in terms of having a really competitive boat on corrected time. But there's obviously going to be a lot of action at different areas of sizes going forward. And I think, this is sort of starting to go on to where the Olympics are going and the offshore event in the Olympics. But I think that's really going to be exciting because I think we've seen the fast 40s and especially in Europe being active. There's a bit happening in Australia as well, which is great. But there's really not much happening in the smaller end of the fleet, down at that sort of, the 30-footers. That area of the fleet's been, reasonably dormant. And I think that's about to change, which is, I think, really exciting for the sport. Because not everyone wants to sail, a 52-footer. Not everyone can afford to run it like a TP52. They might not be a massive boat, but they're not cheap to run. And there's a whole area of the sport that I think is really opening up for people who want to sail smaller boats and obviously sail them potentially short-handed.
Yep. Well, that opens up that line of conversation. We're naturally getting to that point. So first off, congratulations on the mixed offshore class with the Olympics. We know the process that you went through. You've told us. We've sat down and had dinner and a few beers and talked it out. We understand the logic. Whether you want to explain the logic of why the class went ahead, that class went ahead, it's a no-brainer when you actually understand it. But also, just the pure interest and excitement of watching 3 days of sailing as part of the Olympics non-stop is going to be incredible. Can you tell us about the process at all? Is that possible?
Yeah, look, the process of actually getting the offshore event up ended up to be quite convoluted, which is not unusual for world sailing to try and make its decisions. It's a complicated decision-making process. But what we tried to do is initially get a showcase event up for Tokyo 2020, and there was a reasonable desire by the Tokyo organising authority that runs the Olympic Games to actually do a showcase event for offshore, and the Japanese Sailing Federation wanted to do it. Then the day came where it was really felt that the Tokyo Games was just getting too big, too complicated, too expensive to run, and they wanted to simplify and cut some of the costs out of the game. So we really went back to the drawing board, and Gary Jobson, Stan Honey and myself really had to wait for the next opportunity, which was really looking at Paris in 24 and looking at the various classes that were going to be introduced there. So when we had to get gender balance at the Olympic Games, all sports virtually have to have gender balance in terms of numbers of athletes and numbers of medals available to athletes by 24. And so that really opened up the changes to the event schedule at the Olympics for 24, and we're able to get the offshore event in. But the great thing about the offshore event is obviously it brings an enormous group of people into the Olympic Games that really haven't had anything aimed at them. And Obviously there's the offshore sailing and the keelboat sailing fraternity, which is massive. Probably more than 50% of the people who go sailing in the world sail a keelboat, whether it be an estual or an offshore keelboat or whatever. It's it's a huge part of our sport. But also, as you would know, guys, from the Volvo or the ocean race, there's a lot of people who want to then participate in the race via sort of e-sailing and come in that way. So here we've got an event that'll go through 2 nights over 3 days, and it'll be the only event of the Olympic Games that'll go through the night. So given all the time zones in the world, people in Australia during the day, if they want to watch something live at the Olympic Games, sailing will be the only thing that will be going, through, the early hours of the morning, Paris time. So it'll really bring a lot of interest into our sport from a spectator perspective. But what it will do is, I think, produce, as I was saying before, just an enormous interest in, 30 footers or 30, might be just a little bit bigger than 30 foot, and create an enormous interest in, that size of boat. And obviously taking those boats short-handed sailing, 2 up, male and a female. Obviously outside of the Olympics, it can be, fully crewed, or it could be, it doesn't have to be one of each gender, but at the Olympic Games, it'll be one of each gender, and it'll be, the first boat across the line will win the gold medal. And I think that'll be really exciting for the sport.
Yeah, we definitely think it's just a no-brainer. The fact that gender, both male and female, it runs overnight. You got footage going all the time, and as simple as it is to us, we can understand a regatta, but the general public to see that first boat go across the line and get the gold medal is going to open it up, we believe, to the masses, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think, we've got some real challenges that we've got to get on top of, is to how do we make sure that we can actually, deliver that into people's, devices and, onto the TV and whatever. But, we've got a few years to get it right. And we've got some great people working on it with a lot of expertise. And the Olympic Broadcasting Service, which is really responsible for delivering the Olympic Games in a media sense, they're really enthusiastic about the ability to do this, and the unique ability to bring people essentially on board a boat, have a look at what it's like to be sailing in the boat, and have a look at some of the tactical decisions that are being made, and the excitement of sailing. And hopefully they don't get becalmed too many times, but that's part of offshore sailing.
They will. Can I suggest you try talking to the Chief Technical Officer of the Volvo Ocean Race, who's just been responsible for all that?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a really good idea.
We need to discuss a new contract, Jordan.
That's right.
Yeah, no, it'd be a good idea. Actually, whilst we're talking about that, I was, and Bicey was there, and quite a few of the offshore sailors were there. I hosted a technical seminar in Genoa on sustainable build in the yachting world, and it just occurs to me that whatever we choose in that 30, we could actually build out of fully 100% recyclable biofibres, like the specifications coming off some of the fibres that we're seeing, and that Samut was showing that they're about the same sort of properties as S-glass, which is fine for a 30-footer. So, there's a chance for us to lead the way on sustainability as part of this program as well, so which could be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And we're looking at, quite a few of the other sort of basic decisions of, methods of propulsion. But we want to make it a sailor's race. We don't want to have too much sort of weather information coming on, apart from sort of fairly basic weather information.
Yeah, we were debating that one.
We're trying to make it a sailor's race, not a navigator's race. And even my good friend Stan Honey is sort of very much in agreement in terms of making it a sailor's race rather than having just, on board, essentially weather and navigation skills.
Following the routing. I mean, Stan, he's probably had more double-handed experience than all of us put together, to tell you the honest truth, in his many years campaigning the Cow 40 to Hawaii. So he's a good man to come across that, for sure.
I've got a lot of double-handed experience. I just didn't go offshore with it. BP, you got anything, mate? I'm a bit worried about you, buddy.
Look, it's just listening away. Short-handed sailing is very dear to my heart, as you know, and I think, as Matt just said, is a very exciting time, I think, for Australia and for this part of the world. I think that this part of the world has always not been behind, but hasn't really embraced it as has France and the European countries. And I think that the future of double-handed or short-handed sailing I think it's got massive potential for our part of the world, but it will also open the door up to see these classes of boats down here. Like I said last week, I think I would love to see, a Class 40 program down here. I'd love to. Why can't we have an AMOCA, program down here? Why can't we do all that? And the minis as well. This short-handed sailing, introducing it at this level is just going to create more and more interest, and I think that's the good part about it.
At least they've started with the double-handed offshore events as part of the Blue Water Series now. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. So it's not in this Hobart, but it'll be in the next Hobart from memory. And then in all the Blue Water events from this year on. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, look, it is. And I mean, this is just exploding all over the world. I mean, there's events happening in New Zealand, certainly on the west coast of America, obviously in Europe. I'm not quite sure what's happening on the East Coast, but this is just exploding right around the world in terms of people wanting to go double-handed sailing. And yacht clubs are reacting and responding really quickly to this. You've got the sort of leadership of the Olympic Games, the fact that it's now being announced that it's going to be in the Olympic Games. We're still going through some of the specifications of how it's all going to work, how the qualifications, what the boats are going to look like. But we've made some pretty fundamental decisions already. And we don't want a boat that's got a canting keel. We've virtually made that decision, or close to making that decision. We don't want a boat that's foiling, so we want to bring it back to something that is more of a boat that you would readily see at a yacht club, that looks pretty familiar to people.
Yep.
But it's just going to create, I think, a massive influx of people, buying boats, building boats, and actually just going sailing, which is just going to be, I think, it's going to have some really long-term positive impacts for the sport. And as I said, it's the short-handed sailing, I think, is something where you don't need to worry about the logistics of trying to organise 15 crew. I mean, it's almost a full-time job, trying to get the TP crew organised, every other week to go sailing. It's a major logistical exercise. And, if it's only you and one other person, it makes it a lot simpler, doesn't it?
Accessible. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned the other week I got approached by a university because they wanted to set up a sailing program, and they wanted me to give them some advice because they wanted to attract top talent. And they were looking at buying a whole bunch of lasers, and I just said, look, this is the wrong pathway. What you want to do is you want to do this with the double-handed offshore, be first in, buy these boats and get it all set up, and then you can charter those boats out when they're not being used to. And so I sat down and went through the whole scenario with them, and they just walked out so excited by the thought of it. It was a natural fit, and so I think that's going to happen. There's going to be a university building an offshore program as part of that, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that's incredible, isn't it, when you hear things like that? And I've had some yacht clubs ring me up and they say, well, actually, we've got some people now that actually want to donate some money to the club to actually get a couple of offshore boats. What do you think we should buy and how much it's going to cost, and can you help us? Because we've got these people and they don't want to put money into other programs, but they're happy to put money into this sort of offshore program and help with the capital expenditure of buying a couple of boats, which is just just huge for the yacht clubs and for the sport.
Very cool. Boss, you going to go? All right, so that's good discussion on that. Now, there's a really critical question we need to discuss with you, mate. I was just in Tokyo a week ago, and I've suddenly discovered how to count in Japanese. Now, obviously, Ichiban means number one. You've got two boats. Have you ever considered calling one Ichi and the other one Ni?
Well, yeah, somebody has suggested that, but I think how could you call a boat number two after it's been called number one?
Might get a little conscience.
But you can have them. I just thought of them moored next to each other, and all you could see is Ichi Ni.
Itchy knee. Yeah, well, I think most people call us Itchy Bum, but anyway, that's probably luckily not to my face, but. Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing is that Ichiban also means, like, it translates into English as numero uno, even though that's Italian. But, yeah, thanks for your suggestion. Yeah. That's great.
We're here for you, mate. We're here for you. Dear, we might roll on to some discussion points. Do you like that funky bass line there, Matt?
Jordan's got all the kit set up here in his hotel room.
We travel. Wow. We actually travel with our whole setup, so it means I take about 3 pairs of underpants and a t-shirt when I travel, and all this electric gear with me. It's quite bizarre. All right. Okay, so the first point of interest was Hugo Boss. We've had a fair bit of discussion about Hugo Boss. Did you see what happened, Matt?
Yeah, it was incredible, wasn't it?
Well, let's give you some...
Scary incredible. We saw quite a few people that had a bit of commentary on it during Met's show, and without going into the full details, pretty lucky that boat is actually still above water.
Yep.
So...
Why can't we go into any details?
Well, as to exactly what happened, no one knows if it really hit something or if the keel fell out or the exact circumstances.
But what we do know is the keel got driven backwards through the bottom of the boat.
Yep. So the aft keel bulkhead pretty much just made its way back into the back of the boat. Yep. But luckily, because of that indoor, call it the undercover cockpit, it has a false floor in it, and that's pretty much what stopped any of the water getting into the boat.
Yeah, it stopped it sinking, I reckon. So
wow, they were lucky to save the boat, weren't they?
Yeah.
I think it was phenomenal. They actually cut the keel off at the keel rams, number one. And then two, the fact they managed to sail it into port to Cape Verde, and it's now on a ship heading back for another rebuild.
Must have taken one hell of a lot of time to cut the ram. I can't even imagine how they did it.
Yeah, it'd be a solid 50 mil rod from the ram, so there's a bit of cutting involved.
Yeah. Have you ever had anything like that, Matt, when you've been at sea? I know you dropped the rig in the last Brisbane to Gladstone, and I reckon you dropped a rig on a boat back in the early 80s from memory, or 90s. Have you had anything?
Oh, yeah. No, not really. I mean, we've hit the odd thing. Probably, and we've dropped a few rigs. We dropped a rig when the Channel race of the Emeralds Cup back in 1985.
Yeah, that's right.
We had one of those snap spars, I think they used to call them. Zappa. Hopefully Zappa's not listening to this, but anyway. We sent. We were in the Channel race, so I think we probably had about 6 knots of current, and it was current against the wind, obviously. And we sent Rat. He was a Melbourne rat, a different rat from the one that most of us know, down to leeward to pull on the leech line. I think we had a number 4 jib up, and we had 2 reefs in the main. It was really blowing. And we said, pull a bit of leech line on. And he said, is that enough? And we said, no, a little bit more. And the rig came out and said, yeah, no, that was a bit too much.
I saw that one coming.
But actually, the 60-footer hit a container on the way back from Hobart a few years ago. That was probably, I wasn't on board, but that was pretty scary for everybody because it sort of glanced along the side of the keel, and the boat span around, and it took about 40% of the rudder off on the way through.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they were pretty lucky that they weren't 6 inches further to the left. Otherwise, it would have been a full-on blow to the keel.
Yeah.
And like everything, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
As they say, nothing good happens after midnight, does it?
No.
Exactly.
No. Yeah. Oh wow, that's a bit traumatic. Wow, I got a mental blank. There was something really interesting I was going to run through there on that. Back to Hugo Boss. Oh, I know what it was. We had a theory that the sunfish that takes everything out in Hobart was away on holidays in Europe and took out Hugo Boss's keel.
He gets around that sunfish.
It's a very fast-moving sunfish, that one.
Oh, dear. All right, well, that's cool. Well, speaking of Mets, congratulations, as said, the Dame Award. So we, in our humble way, we've just debated the importance of winning a Dame Award. And obviously in the marine industry, it's the biggest thing going. It's like we started it comparing it to the Oscars.
Well, that's how we carried on, actually.
Yeah. And now we're at the moment we're up to.
Was there a red carpet?
No. A lot of champagne. It was, and then now we're up to. It's probably the equivalent of a Nobel Peace Prize because we're saving lives. But yeah, the best thing about that, I don't know about for Bicey, but the best thing for me was our booth had this gigantic winners banner hanging over it. Winner. It didn't say winners, it just said winner. This gigantic winner banner hanging over us the whole time, and you know. I
kept asking, "Hey Jordan, you want to come over here for a coffee or lunch?" No, he just standing under the winner banner the whole time.
When I saw that photo, I just had to laugh. Just you standing there with your arms crossed, big smirk on your face, just with a winner badged over your head. I just.
So
very funny.
Just explain quickly, Bicey, what it was for those who don't know. USAFE, the USAFE device, just quickly.
So the best way to explain, and in layman terms, is it's a aquatic drone. So if someone's in trouble in the water, this can be thrown in the water and remote controlled to them.
Yep. One,
to give them just some buoyancy to hold on to, or two, pull them out of a situation where they might be in trouble. Now, to win, of course, the not only be nominated but win our category and overall is something fantastic for the actual product. And at this point in time, the product is predominantly aimed towards search and rescue, but with some meetings that managed to take place after winning the award with some of the big electronics companies, for example, we certainly hope to evolve the product into something that we can use in a day-to-day life off of sailing boats to help save lives.
Yeah.
So you'd argue right now the product's probably a bit cumbersome just to strap to the back of your boat. But working with some other suppliers, we've found a good inflatable plan going forward, as well as a homing type device on it as well. So.
And the other thing about it is it's exactly the same as a life ring. It's an instant. You just throw it straight away. There's no dicking around. It's an immediate. You just throw it in the water. Immediate response. So if somebody goes overboard and you don't have to recover your boat. You don't have to turn the boat around. You can immediately respond and get to them straight away. Of course, really critical point I want to make is that it was invented in Portugal by the name of a guy called George Norris, and we've been working with him for 3 years, particularly Nick. And now there's, 14 imitators out there?
Yeah, 14 imitation products.
Yeah, none of them which have legal right to be sold.
So there's a light legal battles going on in the background, let's say that.
Have you ever run into the Chinese in business, Matt?
Oh, no, I haven't had too much to do with them, but it's... wow, what a challenge, from a legal perspective. But I mean, the USAFE thing looks just terrific to me because you throw a life ring in and you say you're going downhill, well, the life ring's just going to, go away from the person immediately.
Yeah.
So this is I think, especially if you go to the inflatable version and get that'll be just terrific. And I mean, I'd love to see a demonstration of it. I can't wait to see it in real life.
Well, as a matter of fact, Matt, I've just got a few arriving in Sydney very soon, so I'll see you on about the 17th of December.
Yeah, great. Oh no, I'd love to see it because obviously the man overboard. Well, it's such a scary thing to happen, and when we tipped the boat over on the way up to Hamilton Island recently, we just got a big gust of wind that came out of a cloud, and Nico was on the helm and did a great job trying to save it, but we still tipped it in. And things can happen pretty quickly, and people can be overboard, and it's just the worst nightmare for any crew, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's where the involvement comes from. So that exact thought. All right. Well, congratulations. Anything else from Matt, Spicy?
Well, there was a bit of beer talk around, but we might save that for a future episode. But some fantastic... Mets in itself is a fantastic show, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I've been going for many years now, and to actually, see the people that have had stands set up for many years, and to not only see them, but to see the new products coming through the range in our industry is fantastic. There's a lot of big boat stuff, a lot of super yacht stuff, but there's also a lot of evolution coming through with just even if it's down to little rope pad eyes or different tapes to be used, and that's where they're at. So if you do get the opportunity, it's such a great show to go to. So highly recommended. Unless
you a little Chinese bloke who sets up a store next to us, just different size chain.
That's a bit weird.
The least visited stall in the history of Mets, I reckon, the poor bugger. All right, well, let's just move on. So, Met's definitely worth the visit if you've never done it. It's mind-blowing, the number of people and what you can see. You'll learn heaps. On standby, Spindrift 2, Jules Verne Trophy, another attempt. Jan Guichard and his crew are waiting to go on their little toy, 130-foot or 40-metre Spindrift 2. That was the old Bank Populaire 5, I think, was originally from memory. Anyway, so they're going for a record attempt to try and break the 40-day, 23-hour record around the world. Bossy, can you even comprehend that time?
Maybe just going back to the discussion about designing your boat, Matt, and saying, picking who the designer should be, whether you follow down an existing class, what are the prerequisites to make a design. But imagine these guys. I'll just build us the biggest, greatest thing you can, or design it to start with. We want to win around the world, or the Jules Verne. That's a bit of a big ask for a young naval architect just sitting there, I reckon.
I want to go around the world in less than 40 days. It's just quite incredible, isn't it? Like compared to what we used to with the Volvo 70s and the Volvo 65s going around the world. God, to do it in under 40 days, just incredible, isn't it?
It is.
I noticed even in the Brest Atlantic at the moment, which Sedabo has pulled out of, so there's only 3 left. But they're constantly sitting on 28 to 30 knots, even more at times. I must admit, I get a bit confused because when I type in Brest into my computer, a lot of other stuff keeps turning up.
What's the fastest you've been on a boat, Matt?
I don't know. I don't know what the fastest speed. I think often the TP or even the Volvo, you'd end up with everything out of the water, the front half of the boat out of the water, and you probably don't know what your top speed is. But I was thinking that we've done a few races, the Brisbane to Gladstone and the 2017 Sydney to Hobart race, where I think we did a 1 day, 19 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. And I think that worked out to be an average of about a bit over 16 knots. So, averaging over 16 knots in a TP52.
That's good. Cool.
All the way to Hobart, plus you get parked up a little bit and you've got the start and you've got all that sort of thing. So I think the last drive in to Tasman Island, we had the throw up and, one reef, I think, in the main. And I think we averaged about 3 or 4 hours with Anthony Merrington driving the boat, probably averaged about 18.5, 19 knots. something like that, for about 4 hours. So it's pretty wicked.
That's some going.
Yeah.
Middle of the night as well.
Well, imagine going around on one of these things, like a 40-metre trimaran at full noise, just like 35, 40 knots when it's at full speed, just in huge Southern Ocean seas. It's just incredible to comprehend.
Well, the other one to look at, I mean, they can pick their sea as well because they're going so quick. But their 35, 40 knots is probably equivalent to a Volvo Ocean 65 doing 15. So they're just slicing through the water.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a lack of excitement, apart from just the sheer numbers. There's a slight lack of excitement without water coming crashing over or all those sorts of things. But phenomenal nonetheless.
Yeah. It's. I still think I'd be excited.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
I'd be excited. Well, let's just quickly go straight down that path with the speed stuff. There's a Swiss group have decided that they're going to try and break the speed record held by the Aussie Paul Larson, who was on our show. I can't remember which episode, about 4 or 5 or 6 or something. So Paul Larson's got the speed record at, it's just over 65 knots, about 120 kilometres an hour, which is just incredible. These guys reckon they're going to do 80 knots.
Good luck. Holy shit. You don't need a wet weather supplier, wet weather gear.
Set of nappies, mate.
Yeah, set of nappies. Holy shit. But with a kite wing.
Yep.
I find that a bit hard to believe.
Well,
it's going to do 80 knots.
Yeah, I don't know. They reckon they're going to. Is this sort of stuff of interest to you, Matt?
I think it's amazing because it'll, in some way, shape or form, it'll flow through to the rest of the sport. But I'm trying to work out, how anything touching the water, going that speed, because I've always sort of understood that over about 50 knots, foils just start to, the water just starts to boil around the foils, and that's always sort of, it's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like the sound barrier for an aeroplane, isn't it? Going more than 50 knots through the water. So I'm fascinated by it.
We've Barcarati have got a program to break the speed record, but all we're going to do is we're just going to go and sit in a steel shell and put a tiny sail up when a hurricane or a cyclone hits, and we'll just get blown away at 100 kilometres an hour and figure we've broken the speed record. But that's effectively what they're doing with this thing. They're just holding a kite up in the air and then just zooming down. But good luck to them. Good luck to them. At least they're having a red hot dig. I'm mightily impressed. Okay. Should we talk about the ARC? Do we want to quickly mention that?
Yeah. I mean, the ARC is, one of the more famous routes, and the amount of boats also going across the Atlantic. And we just saw our good friends on Childhood, which is the ex-Team Brunel, who are taking a bunch of guests over for the ARC, led by skipper Bauer Becking. So
we saw Bauer Metz.
Yeah, Bauer was at Metz.
And he had every single colour on at once there. Whatever shirt he was wearing.
But what a great event, and it gets everyone across the Atlantic for the winter, so they can spend their time in the Caribbean and have a good time, enjoy their boats, just getting out on the water again. Actually,
because we were chatting a lot of World Yacht Rally as well whilst at Metz, which is a major project that we've got going on, and the overwhelming response was around that whole concept of to get people out on their boats and utilising their boats rather than being sitting in marinas, go and cross oceans and go and visit places and see it. And it's interesting, all the top pros, all the top leaders in design, in sail making, in rigs, in everything, all they were interested in was to see, the genuine
people
interest
on the water.
To get people on the water.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. They're with the ARC, they're sailing from the Cape Verdes across to St. Lucia, I think it is, and basically there's 3 different pathways they can go around Gran Canaria, plus St. Vincent, or straight across. So, and then the RORC races on at the same time as well. So it's a fairly busy piece of water. At least all the mini transats have cleared out because they're finished now. So that so there's a little bit of clear space.
But there will be the Brest Atlantiques
coming back through the fleet.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be phenomenal, though? You cruise along on your Oceanus 40, just having a nice time, and then this massive trimaran just does a little flyby.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Matt, do you ever go cruising?
Actually, I don't cruise very much. I mean, I do love powerboating, actually, when I'm cruising. You know, I've got a Palm Beach and often go out in the harbour and go up to Pittwater and things like that. So, but it's just much easier than docking off and going cruising in a TP52.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of, you know, I still haven't found the owner's cabin in the TP52.
No. And the catering is down to a barbecue chicken.
It's down there somewhere, but I can't find it.
Yeah. No, obviously, we'll just. I think we should all just one day, all of us, just get together one day somewhere around the world and we'll just hire out all the boats of a charter fleet and just go cruising somewhere. Turn into the biggest cruising race you've ever seen in your life.
Boozing, cruising, snoozing.
Boozing, cruising, snoozing. That's it. It'll be a ton of fun. I might skip over the getting people into sailing. What do you reckon? Should we go into that one?
Yeah, it's a bit of a longer.
That's a long discussion. We might push that one back. What yacht are we buying this week? Now, Matt, that's a regular question for you. So we occasionally throw this question out to each other. What yacht are we buying this week? Just what takes our eye, what catches our eye. Just to give you some idea, in the first week, Bicey wanted to buy a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier from the US Navy.
Yeah, it's a bit expensive.
And
running it would be hard.
I think he just liked the fact that he could get everywhere at 29 knots.
Exactly.
and take out anyone he didn't like. Have you got one this week, boss?
Nothing in particular, but I think along the lines, hearing you speak, Matt, about the passion and the decision-making process for the new Olympic boat and double hand and bringing it to the masses, I'm going to go for whatever the new Olympic boat is and try and push it through and get them into our local clubs. I think it's a fantastic initiative. But
remember, with the qualification, it's each continent has their own different type of boat, and then the actual Olympic class will be announced 6 months out. So you're going to wait till 6 months out.
I might hold out.
Hold out, yep, copy. That's a good idea. I like that a lot. I reckon that'd be pretty cool. I think there'll be a lot of money in 30-footers, interest in 30-footers pretty soon, so that's good. And I think it's a great idea. Is there any boat that's taken your eye this week, Matt?
Well, I was going to say the L30 because that's sort of, you know, that's a boat within that size range. It's it's a boat that probably, you know, fits in quite nicely. I'm not saying obviously that's going to be the Olympic boat. That's going to be a decision for a lot later on. So the richer countries can't sort of have an arms race against the smaller countries. Everyone gets a bit of a fair go. But yeah, I reckon, you know, the L30 looks, I haven't seen it sail, but it looks like a pretty cool boat. And obviously that goes with the theme of double-handed sailing on a 30-footer and getting people involved and going sailing at a pretty economic cost.
Yeah, no, it's a cool-looking boat, and it's the boat that they're using for the World Champs in the Middle Sea race, which is in Malta next year. So that is the actual boat that they'll be using for the World Champs.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a cool looking boat. I saw a couple in Genoa, and it took my eye. So I get why you like it. Just the look of it looks pretty cool. It's sort of more. How would you describe it, Boss? Do you know the things?
Yeah, I guess it's just an involvement of the 30-footers and how they've looked for many, many years. Well, just
it's a traditional modern shape.
Yeah, exactly.
But doesn't have any of those scow elements that sort of are coming into some classes. It's more of a traditional narrow sort of...
Yeah, hard chine type, double rudder. So using some involvement in yachting, but not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. All right, well, I've had I've had it on my list for weeks, and I've never actually said it, have I? For a long time, is the Rapier 550, which is a 55-foot catamaran.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Why?
Catamaran.
Have I? I haven't done a catamaran before, have I?
Yeah, yep.
Have I?
Yeah, you like the cat.
No, I did a trimaran, then I've done a monohull, and then I've done a cat. There's no bias. There's no bias. I'm not trying to take you.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
Yeah, here we go.
So the whole notion behind the 550 is that it's got its mast post right forward and its navigation and actually helm station right forward in the saloon. And so for me to get my wife to go to sea, I'm just thinking at 2 o'clock in the morning when everything goes wrong and she's on watch. I don't want it outside the boat. I want it inside where it's safe. And this thing seems to have that solution. All the control lines, all the halyards, all your sheets, everything are right there next to you. And you can steer the boat from that saloon position. It looks pretty cool. It's pretty funky. It doesn't have any dagger board, so it won't go upwind super well. But, just go cruising, load it full of surfboards, and...
There's another boat like that. Could be going cheap. It's called Hugo Boss. Everything's inside.
Yeah, everything's inside. Yeah, kind of. But I mean, I quite liked it. It just looked like a nice way to be able to take my wife sailing without risking her life. Is what I guess is the notion.
How thoughtful.
Yeah, and then I don't get sunburnt being a ginger. Have you embraced the Ginga Challenge, Matt? Have you picked up on that yet?
No, I hadn't picked up on that one, Jordan.
Just for those who are new to the show, because we're getting a huge influx of listeners. It's crazy how many people are joining the show.
It might have been a bit of that campaigning we were doing at Mets, just handing out pamphlets regarding bar karate.
Yeah,
we're not sure yet.
Yeah. So the notion, Bossy and I were in Sweden on the last race, and we were sitting there chatting to some people, actually on some USAFE technology we were working on. And one of the lasses was Norwegian, I think, from memory, or Danish, and bright red hair. And we were just talking about, I had this theory that you can actually crowdfund an entry into the ocean race. And all you had to do was get behind some sort of group, some sort of marginalised, unloved group of human beings. And so from there, we've born the Ginga Challenge. So everyone involved in the Ginga Challenge, it'll be funded by redheads from all around the world, a $2 donation every time they get their haircut. And then it'll be sailed by redheads, crewed by redheads. Everyone involved will be Ginga. And so this is just a theory we've got. We're welcome and open to other marginalised groups to coming up with their own version. But yeah, we're Bar Karate are running the Ginga Challenge.
But
has Tom Slingsby signed up for that one?
Absolutely.
My theory is, Matt, they won't make it past the start line. There'll be a punch up between the dock and the start line.
Slingers listens to the show, mate, so he's on board for sure. He 100% is on board. Yeah, there'll be no punch up. Us redheads are calm, mellow, quiet people.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to Secret Pro News. Got any Secret Pro News, boys?
I must say no. I don't have anything across the desk at this point in time. So we'll keep my ear to the ground. I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of movement out of Sydney coming up. So
yeah,
let's stand by.
You got any Secret Pro News you want to share, Matt? I'm guessing a no.
No. I think I better stay off the record on that one.
Yeah. BP had some, but the internet connectivity through Malaysia's killed him. He's dropped out of the call, which explains why it's not as much fun, because we need BP for his humour. So so we're missing out on his bit of news. He had a theory though. I can't remember what it was. Do you remember, boss?
Negative. Didn't hear it.
All right. Okay. So no secret news. Results. It's going to be hard to do the results on the Raja murder.
Raja murder.
Have you got it?
No.
BP had that, so we've lost him. So we'll push that back a week. Mini Transit. That was probably BP's work, but I'll tell you what's going on. Unless you've got something, boss.
Apart from Brest Atlantics.
No, I'll tell you.
Touched on.
So the mini transit, remember, it's 2 legs. So on the mini transit, Francois Jamboul has won in the what do they call them? The BP's going to kill me when he hears this. The
Protos.
Protos. Thank you. So he's won the overall on that because he won the second stage in and wins the outright. Axel Trahin, who won the first leg, came 11th into Las Palmas, so he's ended up second overall. And then a German sailor, Morten Borgacki, came in third overall on the overalls for that. And then in the Ambrogio Beccaria, am I going?
These names are getting bloody better and better.
Oh, man. Are you good with French or Italian or anything there, Matt?
Japanese only.
Only Japanese?
Only Japanese.
Yeah. Okay, in the standard fleet. So Nicolas de Estaes and Benjamin Ferreira. Second.
I'm leaving it with you.
Yeah. Did you have Japanese before you went over to Japan, mate?
No, not really. I mean, but I probably can't have a conversation in Japanese, but I can order food and beverage, which is incredibly important when you're in Japan.
Absolutely. I think I can do that in about 18 languages as well.
I actually used to work in the markets. That was my career for quite a while. And I remember we were trying to, on our desk, it was late, and the only trading desk that was open was one in Japan. And the poor lass I was sitting next to, I was on the distribution side. The poor lass I was sitting next to was trying to talk to this guy and couldn't understand him. She kept saying, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying. And there was a famous commercial in Australia back in those days where he says there was something like fishing canned fish or something. It says, Akononor. He says he does not know. So I don't know if that was true, but I told her to just say Akononor down the phone, and it seemed to work. So, yeah, that's the extent of my Japanese.
Yeah, that's pretty handy.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be spending a bit of time over there. I've got a suspicion at the moment. So, all right, Brest Atlantic, Bossy, get onto that before I keep rambling.
So, well, the big news today, Bo, is out with a damaged starboard aft section of the hull of one of the floats. So they're in Cape Town enjoying the hospitality of the Basque Bar, I'm sure. And our mates Frank and Charles continue to lead the fleet, although they're only 150 miles ahead, so they're not.
They had to reset in Cape Town.
Exactly, smoking away. But actual leaders in front of Massif, which is probably unexpected, I would say.
And they're on the top of the high now, so they'll probably start to accelerate. They're doing lots of jibing down the Nambia coastline. Have you guys ever been to Nambia?
Negative.
It looks amazing.
No.
It truly looks amazing. You never been, Matt?
No, never.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure.
I reckon it's a place I want to go to. So they should go, as we say, full noise. So they should pretty much run through that ARC fleet, as we discussed, within the next couple of days. They've only been going 18 and a half days. It's amazing how quick it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. So we're just covering off on those things. So that's pretty much it. Around the grounds, the Niners, 49ers, 29ers, the Oceanics all start the NACRA 17s over in New Zealand.
Sweet as, bro.
Sweet as. Choice. Actually...
At the newly renovated Akarana Yacht Club.
Yep.
So that's going to be a big regatta. And I wonder if Doltz has any tricks up his sleeve to go smoking through the fleet at any time on the new big boat.
100% certain. Yep. Have you been looking at the America's Cup much, Matt?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it looks amazing, isn't it? I mean, I just think the whole concept of the boat is still something that's sort of quite bewildering to, but it's just incredible, isn't it?
I remember when Guillaume was explaining it to me like a few years ago, he was sort of saying, this is what we're going to do. And I'm just going, what? you don't have a keel on the thing, or it's on the side, It's they look cool. I can't wait for this America's Cup. I really can't wait. The Yacht Racing Forum is on in Spain, in Bilbao, which is a lovely place to go, on the 25th and 26th of November. You would have been there in the past, I'm guessing, Matt?
No, I haven't actually gone. It's just a really hard time of the year to get, because you come back from the World Sailing Conference, and that often seems to be about as far away in the world as you can possibly find. This year was Bermuda. It's hard to get away. We just want to go sailing and get the boat ready for Hobart, but it would have been good to go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just having a look through the speakers list here, and they don't have to worry about a crowd going because they've got about 1,000 speakers.
1,000 speakers.
So
everyone gets to speak.
Everyone's getting a go. So if you did sign up, I'm sure you'd get a berth on the podium.
Yeah, you would actually. Absolutely. There's some plenty of interesting speakers, though.
No, absolutely.
Like, it'd be really cool. Our mate Luca Rizzotti is going to be one of the... Well, actually, a lot of our mates are speaking, so...
Yeah, well, Stan will be there. Kafari, Ken Reid, Johan, about the ocean race.
Yep.
A lot of experience, not only from the event side, but also from the actual commercial side will be speaking. There's a lot of people talking about media and based off all the regattas and events that's happened in the last few years. So it's,
from that...
definitely from a knowledge point of view, it's one to lend an ear for sure.
I was just going to say, Matt, from John O'Turner's going to talk about exactly what it'll be about the technology, getting the technology and all that, the footage, the sound off the boats, and what we're going to be doing with the Olympic classes. So it would be an interesting one.
Oh yeah, that'd be fascinating. And well, at least we've got stands over there, so it'd be just great to see actually how we can evolve that as a sport and really deliver the Olympics, I think, a lot more effectively than what we've done as a sport over the years. So great opportunity for Tokyo and obviously into Paris. I know it's a long way away; it's like 4.5 years away, but we're even looking at I've been spending the last couple of weeks even designing the potential for the Olympics to come to Brisbane and where we're going to run the sailing events if we do get the Olympics to Brisbane in 2032.
Sunshine Coast. Sunshine Coast. Just off, everyone can launch from my place, straight out. That's exciting. And genuinely, if you need some input on the how to make the media work, I can tell you there's a bloke sitting next to me that is probably the best guy in the world to talk to. So that'll make life easy for you because you know him quite well. Yeah. All right, we're just about through this. If you do want to involve us with us a little bit more, obviously you can contact us directly through Instagram, #BarKarate, on the Facebook page. We've got a Bar Karate site there and a website, barkarate.com. All we ask is just enjoy the show. If you feel like rating it, we're not doing this for money, so we don't really care. But if you feel like giving us a rating or sharing it to your friends, that'd be pretty awesome. As long as you enjoy it. And if you remember, the rule is if you don't like Bar Karate, send money, and then we'll know. All right. Anything else on that one, boss?
All clear.
All clear. Okay, Matty. One more thing. We always ask a quiz question at the end, and see if you can answer this one, buddy. At which highly prestigious US-based university can you gain certification as a pirate after taking a course in pistol marksmanship, archery, sailing, and fencing?
The only bit they forget there is the rum drinking.
The rum drinking. We know.
We're all pretty good at that.
So this is true. This is genuinely, you can get this. And we're all enrolling, I can assure you.
Well, yeah, I'd like to enrol in the course, but I've got no idea where it is.
This will blow your mind, mate. Are you ready? MIT.
Yep, I'm ready.
MIT.
MIT?
Kid you not. MIT. So if you want to become a pirate, you have to enrol at MIT. Isn't that amazing?
God, I know a lot of people have been to MIT over the years, but they never said that that actually completed that course.
And we ask a question that's go out so people can do their research. So the question for next week, which we'll answer next week, is which city is older? Lisbon, where we are right now, which if you've never been to Lisbon, can I say, come to Lisbon. I love the place.
Worth doing it.
It's such a great place to hang out. Which is older, Lisbon or Rome? That's the question. Matt Allen, truly a pleasure to have you involved with the show, mate. It was great fun to have you on board.
Thanks, Matt. Fantastic.
It's been a pleasure, guys, and good to see that we kept BP quiet for the whole session as well. Eh?
We lost
anyway, any more questions, BP?
Hey, it's been a pleasure to talk to you guys, and hey, look forward to seeing you when you're back in Australia a little bit later in December.
Absolutely. Cheers, Matt.
Mate. See you later, everyone. Thanks for listening.